Welcome to the 1905 podcast with your hosts Joe Kevin and Chris Sheen. Joe and I have been going to Stamford Bridge for over 30 years. This podcast takes you inside our unfiltered voice notes on all things Chelsea, sharing our view from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes. In this episode, we look back at a pretty credible draw with Arsenal, a flood of goals against Noah, and discuss the futures of Christopher Nkunku. Before we start the pod, I just wanted to say a thank you from Joe and I, from all of you guys listening. We've been blown away by the support and the kind words from everyone. And we wanted to put a little ask out there, if you don't mind. If you are enjoying the podcast, we would love you to share it with a friend. If you're on a Chelsea WhatsApp group or anyone you know is a Chelsea fan, if you could do us a big favour and share a link to the podcast with them, honestly, it would mean so much to us to help get the word out there to more people. You can either share, obviously, a direct link to wherever you're listening now, or you can go to www.1905podcast.com and share the link with them there so they can listen wherever they want to listen. But we'd really appreciate your help to get the word out there about the pod. So let's get back to the podcast itself and start with our reactions to the games against Noah and, of course, Arsenal. Game day, and it's one of those days of the season that you just desperately want to win, isn't it? Big London derby, home to Arsenal. Doesn't get much bigger than that. And I was having a look at I think everyone knows our recent record against Arsenal hasn't been great, but it really brought it to light when I had a little look at how much it's shifted in the last few years. So the last 5 years, the last 10 games we played against Arsenal, they've won 6 and we've won 2. And we've been pretty dismal, let's be honest, for most of those. The 5 years before that, Arsenal only won once in 10 games. That was the era that we really felt like we dominated. We won 6, so it has almost shifted completely from one to the other in the last 5 years. So let's hope that this is the start of the next 5 years and it's back to Chelsea dominating our London rivals again. Obviously a great win in midweek against Noah. A flood of goals, I think is the joke that's going around, but it was a bit of a pub team game, wasn't it, to be fair? I mean, 6-0 at half-time. Felt like we could have got 10 as the crowd were calling for in the second half. It took the foot off the gas a little bit. But definitely some positives, obviously, in terms of even if you are playing against a team that you should absolutely smash, and we did, great to see a couple of goals from set pieces. Obviously, we've got the new set piece coaching from Brentford, Quaver, and it was good to see actually us get a couple in the first half from corners. Always good for those front players to score goals. Obviously, Felix took his goals really well. Mudryk's goal was brilliant, wasn't it? And I said on the WhatsApp group, how many times have we seen him go in, get in those positions and smash those shots over the bar? I mean, that was just a little glimpse of that quality that you just know he's got. You know, he does that lovely touch with the sole of his feet, with the studs, and then gets it out of his feet and just, I mean, it couldn't hit it better. So again, that's going to give him a bit of confidence. It'll be interesting to see if he gets some proper game time today, obviously against Arsenal, a club that he so nearly joined and scored against last season. So yeah, really good for him. And Nkunku has already hit double figures for the season, and he's basically playing very limited minutes, isn't he? So again, good for him. If Palmer isn't quite right today, I wonder if he'll get the nod at 10. The team will come out very soon, so we'll know. And either way, I really hope he gets proper minutes today, because I felt that not bringing him on against United last week was a mistake. But yeah, good. That's a big game. I'm nervous. It's one of those days when you are genuinely nervous. Joe, I'm guessing you're on the way to the game as you're hearing this. So come on, Chelsea. Big game.
Yes, just on my way now, mate, to Fulham Broadway. Just got off at Wimbledon and very much looking forward to a few beers and a bit of relaxation before the game starts. I'm going with Owen Phillips, who has been a big contributor to the podcast this season so far, and managed to get him a ticket today, so he's buzzing to go as a fan and not as a journalist, so we can leave the laptop at home and just come as a supporter today. So yeah, looking forward to meeting him. Obviously, after Stamford Bridge, we had our 8-0 victory on Thursday night against Noah. I think you and I were obviously both pleased to win the game 8-0. Of course, no one's going to say that we don't want to win a game of football like that. But what I would say is, I'm not sure how much these games really do mean for the squad and the players that are playing in them. You know, you could see that Nkunku certainly wasn't, how can I say, he just didn't look very happy. I don't think Felix was overly happy as well. So there's certainly a food for thought on that. I think they're going to want to see some action in the Premier League sooner rather than later. Otherwise, it's just going to become a really them and us, isn't it? A and B, and I don't think we want that for the squad. I mean, I'd say it's almost quite difficult to even really pick out any good performances, because if Badia Shield or Disassi or someone like that has a very good game, you can't quite place it, can you? Because you think, well, against Newcastle in the Cup, they didn't exactly cover themselves in glory, but against Noah and these types of teams, it's certainly a lot easier for them. So it's a very hard competition. It's very a low quality competition, and actually one that even I had thought that would be, or certainly has some struggles in it, but we haven't had anything so far, and it doesn't look like we're going to have any going forward. So yeah, a competition now that I think we almost have to win, which is quite a strange statement to say when you're playing in Europe. I'd say, as for today's game, it's going to be full of tension, it's going to be full of nerves, I think. I'd love to see us start well. I'd also want to see some contributions from other players. I mean, we didn't have Palmer starting yet, I haven't heard, but I think if we can get some players scoring goals from other positions and other areas of the field, it's going to take a lot of pressure off of him. I feel as though we do rely on him a little bit too much, and it'll be good to see some goals flying in from other places. I think I'm relatively kind of calm at the moment. I think as the game kicks off, those nerves will kick in. I see those red shirts come out. You're always going to feel as though they've always got a chance, Arsenal. I mean, because say our record against them lately has been abysmal. Let's be honest with you, it's not even bad, it's abysmal. And I think we really do need to sharpen up in a lot of areas, and none more so than at the back. I think we just give too many chances to be freebies. Sanchez, as we know, likes to roll one out to the opposition, and that can sometimes stem into the defenders receiving a bad pass and them giving it into a bad area of the field for us. So I think if we can certainly take some of those risky balls out of our game, it's gonna benefit us. At the same time, by playing that way, it does give us a freedom and a flexibility to move the ball forward into pockets of the field that Arsenal won't like and other teams won't like. So it's a very hard thing to sort of say when you're asking the goalkeeper to do different things, and it's very easy for us to keep saying, get rid of it because he can't play at the back. But we know that Maurice's asked him to do a specific job, and he can't change his ways, otherwise he's going to find himself out of the team. So I think this is a game today where you can't really afford to gift Arsenal too many cheap chances, and certainly even if you gift them balls where they end up getting corners and free kicks, as we know their set pieces are exceptional, and that's something we do have to keep an eye on. Obviously, always worried about players like Saka, and you fear as though someone like Havertz can come back to haunt us on a day like today, even though I don't think he's an outstanding player. I think when you get a player come back against you to, after a while of being away, you always feel as though they're going to pinch one, don't they? So, it's always on the back of your mind. I think Arsenal got goals in them all over. They haven't scored a bundle lately, but I think the tide can turn at any point, and let's hope it's not today. I want to see Chelsea break those shackles today. We've mentioned these big game things, and it's really interesting that other podcasts and the media have picked up on it, and even asking questions in his press conference about winning a big game. So it's definitely something they must be thinking about, and for God's sake, Chelsea, let's hope it's today. Would I take a draw? Probably, but at this stage, obviously, always want to win. So let's see what happens, and come on, you Blues.
They could really quickly there for Kai Havertz to squeeze it in for Arsenal.
He might be offside.
Offside, no goal.
Half-time whistle has literally just gone, and it's been feisty, hasn't it? Proper game is the first thing you got to say about it, and it's really good to see that side of Chelsea actually, which we've not seen a huge amount of in the last couple of years. And the fight and the battle has been really good. No more so than Cucurella, who's done a brilliant job in the first half, and Saka has not given him an inch and has been basically right up his backside every time he's got the ball. So big shout out to him. A couple of good free kick chances for Palmer when they're at the end there. Like, you'd almost sort of perfect spots for him really to try and get something on goal, and hitting the wall both times is poor by his standards. And the big chance of the game for us was that that Gusto header at the back post. I mean, what a ball by Neto. He just teased him, didn't he? One of the things that I think people underestimate with Neto, isn't it, talked about enough actually, is how two-footed he is. He's so good on either foot, and I think that's kind of what he did to Ben White, because Ben White knew he could go on either side and eventually decided to get on his left. Couldn't have put a better ball in, and yeah, it's the floor of the right back attacking the ball at the back post, isn't it? I mean, it was interesting, they didn't even mention it, anyone around us, but like you thought it looked like a nudge on him by Martinelli at the back post, maybe not enough for a penalty, but didn't even get looked at. Arsenal have, obviously, you're just frightened of them from set pieces, aren't you? The couple of corners they've had that have come in has caused absolute mayhem. So Chelsea have actually done quite well not giving too many of those away, but when they do come in, you worry. And that is always the part of this game that I sort of feared, really, is that if we are going to get broken down, it could be from a set piece. And obviously the one time they had the ball in the net was incredibly tight, and thank God Havertz had just gone offside. Shout out to his celebration. I mean, seen so many players in the past come back to Chelsea and have a real class when they come back, and you know, Havertz, he's getting a little bit of stick, but nothing too crazy. In the fact he sort of shushed the fans at the club that he won the Champions League. Personally, in the way he celebrated again at Arsenal last year, I think it lacks class, personally, and people might disagree, but I think that was, yeah, not a big fan of that. I think you can handle yourself in a slightly different way, as we've seen with many players over the years in the past. You know, enjoy the goal, celebrate by all means, but shushing the fans that once sang your name, I think is poor. But anyway, goal was disallowed, so big second half. Come on, Chelsea. Final whistle's just blown, and my God, thank God for Trossard getting a touch to stop Havertz scoring at the end there. My heart is still in my mouth beating, because that would have been just horrendous, wouldn't it? And actually, to be fair, completely undeserved. I thought, it's obviously same result as last week, quite similar, 1-0 down, come back to equalise, but Phil has a real different feel about it, doesn't it? I think we actually played pretty well today, and you can see we're not quite there yet. We're not. We know that. It's still a young team with one or two players probably away from being genuine contenders, which hopefully next season we could be, but there is a lot to like in this Chelsea team, and actually each week you look at different players and how they're growing into the team, and there's a lot to be quite excited about. I'm going to pick out two, and one is a player that was brilliant last week, and the phrase I use is when you lose someone like Gallicante, I genuinely think he's irreplaceable and kind of the impossible task to replace him. But I tell you what, in Casado, we might have just found someone very, very close. I thought he was absolutely exceptional today, and no better example than 93rd minute, a brilliant sliding tackle in the right back position to stop the counter attack. He was superb yet again, and we went for him over Rice in the end. I guess you could say it was always going to be a challenge between those two, and I think over the course of time, I think it might look like we've got the better deal there, because he is just incredible. And the other player I want to pick out actually is a guy who I've been probably quite critical of, and not because I don't like him, but more because I'm concerned about whether we'll see him at the level he was once at after injuries. But I thought he was brilliant today, and that's Wesley Fofana. He was the Wesley Fofana that I remember watching at Leicester. He was so brilliant on the front foot every single time. He was superb, driving forward with the ball. Didn't give Havertz or any of the other Arsenal forwards really a moment's peace. He was brilliant in the box as well. Obviously, we know how good Arsenal are at set pieces and all those kind of things. Arguably the most one-dimensional Arsenal team I've seen for a long, long time. I know it's been said about their set pieces, but it generally feels like that's kind of how they play the game, just looking for set pieces, don't they? But back to Fofana, I thought he was brilliant. So big shout to those two. But lots of good performances across the board, and overall, I'm not too disappointed. Actually, I think it was really important not to lose today, not to lose a big London derby at home like that. And again, coming from behind, showed good character. What a goal from Neto. Brilliant strike. and we go into the international break in third. And actually, now, if you look at the next round of fixtures, it's a lot kinder. And what's that, 12 games into the season, we've played Arsenal, United, Liverpool, and Man City. We've beaten Brighton, we've played Forest, who are up there, we've played a lot of the teams towards the top of the league. And if we can now go and do, those kind of performances with a little bit more cutting edge in the rest of the games up to Christmas, we could find ourselves in a really good position going into the new year. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty positive about that, and yeah, actually quite proud of him. Well done, Chelsea.
I'm on my way home from a pulsating London derby. What a fantastic game of football that was. I really enjoyed it. It was tight. It was very on the edge at times. You didn't know if it was going to go our way or their way. You really felt as though we played as the away team, I thought, in the second half, particularly. Much more on the counter-attack. They were definitely kind of pressing forward to kind of stamp their authority over us, but I thought we dealt with it really well. It was nice to see the two centre-halves stand up to that, and I thought Cucurella and Gusto were outstanding. Cucurella particularly. I thought Gusto played well, but I thought Cucurella was really good. It took about to the 80th minute before he was dribbled past. I mean, that's some going, particularly against Saka. And he was just all over them. He never gave them a moment's peace. His passing was good. His tackling was good. His general shithousery was good in terms of getting in their face. And they didn't like that. The game really changed when Havertz shushed the Chelsea fans down our end when he scored his goal that was disallowed. Up until then, we'd given him quite a good grace, actually. And then he did that, and it was like, why? Why did you do that? It was just really odd. I mean, we've never given Havertz any stick, and I don't know any Chelsea fan that's really given him much stick in the past. And that was an odd thing to do, quite frankly. And he really meant it seems. So, fuck you, Havertz, quite frankly. But as it goes, as a match, I thought we stood up to them well. They were quite one-dimensional. You could sense that when they got a free kick or a corner, the Arsenal fans, was the only time they sang, apart from when they scored, was they were really getting like, oh, come on, we're going to get this. You can sense it in their voice and their jitters. They were like, oh, okay, we can get something from this. And quite weird, really, because the Arsenal teams of years gone by have always been so free-flowing and good to watch. And I didn't really feel that today. I thought they were quite static. They were quite predictable. Their wingers and their midfield players stayed in position. Very sort of Man City-esque, but almost less good to watch in a weird way. You can sort of see why they're not doing quite so well as you sort of would expect. Having said that, they did pose a threat and they were dangerous, and you can never rule them out from any game of football. So I think Owen and I were watching that game, and there were times where we were thinking, oh no, don't give a free kick away there, or even I think it was the last couple of minutes, they got another corner right at the death, and you're thinking, oh God, and the offside flag saved us from having to defend it too much. But I think overall we really did perform well. Arsenal are not an easy team to play against. I think this point today feels a lot better than the last point against United. That's just my personal opinion. I felt as if we really worked hard for this point today. Everybody, to a player, to a man, was on their job and doing their job diligently. And I thought that the substitutions, particularly with Enzo, now we've given Enzo a little bit of stick. I think lots of podcasts and media outlets have given Enzo some stick. And I thought, you know what, today when he come on, he was snapping at all the Arsenal midfield players. He looked really busy. You can claim the assist for the goal from Neto, but he didn't really do a lot for the assist, but you know what I mean. He was a really good player today, and he probably had 25 minutes, give or take, and that's one of the best 25 minutes of football he's probably had for Chelsea, being brutally honest. And I want to give him some credit because, like I said, we have been quite down on him, and it was nice to see him come on and actually affect the game, and I thought he did. You mentioned Fofana, and I agree with you. I thought Fofana, particularly in the first half, was outstanding, dribbling forward, carrying the ball. And Arsenal weren't expecting that, and even to the point at one move where he dribbled forward and actually had a 1-2 with a winger. It might have been Madueke possibly, and actually got the reverse pass, the return pass, and actually made the cross for the chance didn't come to anything, but he dribbled from his own half all the way to Madueke, had a 1-2, and actually was crossing the ball from the byline. So I want to give him some credit because I gave him a bit of stick last week for that goal that, his role in the goal that kind of led to the penalty. And I think he probably does deserve a lot of credit today because I thought he was excellent. I thought Colwell was also very, very good. Some excellent passes out to the wide areas, particularly in the first half. And he was looking to find Jackson quite a lot in the central areas, but they weren't quite linking up and the ball kept firing past him. Having said that, it's not easy to play out from the back on a regular basis, and you can see they're giving the ball more to the centre-backs, I thought today. Sanchez wasn't doing as much passing out from the back as into midfield. It was definitely a thing where you could see they were passing to the centre-halves and they were doing the passing out, which is a much better ploy if you're going to do that. As a whole, I thought the team just fought for the badge. We've been saying this for a long, long time, that this team doesn't or hasn't fought, oh my word, nothing more so than when we scored the goal. Maresca was literally charging in the touchline, fist pumping. That's what I want to see. I love that in my manager. I absolutely love that. It's Conte vibes there for me, Jose vibes. I think that obviously when the Neto goal went in, we were right behind that. And as soon as he left his foot, you were like, that's him. And couldn't be prouder of him because he had a very good game today. So within sort of the constrictions of the way Arsenal played, it was difficult for him. But when he did get the ball, I thought he was dangerous. And that finished literally, I'm not even joking, as it left his foot, it was down my end and I was like, in, and it flew in the bottom corner. No one was saving that. If I'm being critical, I've got to pull Sanchez up on the goal. You cannot get beat on your near post from there. That was... any goalkeeper will tell you they'll be disappointed. He will be disappointed with that. There's no question he will go in and be like, fuck, I've messed up there. We don't want to keep having Sanchez. I promise you we don't. We want to come on here on a week and not mention his name, but I think you've got to save that. He needs to be touching his front post and then if the ball goes across him, you can get across to that. But to be within a football of him on the goalpost to go in is not good enough. That's my personal opinion. As a whole, I thought that the stadium reacted pretty well to go and go behind. It was good to see lots of singing, lots of chanting. No one lost faith. Nobody lost faith in Chelsea today. That was really good to see. That was evident as well. I hope that Caicedo's getting his credit because he was outstanding. And again, you mentioned this. I was going to bring it up, but you said it. It was a Mudryk cross in the 92nd minute, which was way over hit, and it was a good chance for us. And he's hit it miles past the back post, and Arsenal broke down their left-hand side. And you said in your voice note, Chris, that Caicedo literally ran 30 yards to make a slide tackle to stop that, and he literally turned around and he was angry, really angry at Mudryk for that because it's cost him, in the 93rd minute, he's having to run 30 yards across field to try and stop a winger from making a counter-attack. And he did it, and he was just not pleased. So lovely to see that he's kind of stepping up into that kind of leader's role. Generally feel much, much happier with that point today than I did last week. I feel as though we missed a trick last week against United. That was a poor draw in my personal opinion. This today didn't feel like that. Arsenal, even though they were quite rigid and they were quite ponderous at times, they always posed a threat, like I say. And Martinelli, particularly, I'd say more on his side than Saka. He was the one that really kind of had you worried. And like you said, that little toe poke from Trossard, which took the ball away from Havertz in the middle of the pitch, in the middle of the goal, with literally about a minute remaining, was quite lovely actually. Because had we lost in the 95th minute, I'm not sure if myself or Owen could have taken that. So really, really happy to see that sort of float wide of the goal. And obviously from where we were sitting, we couldn't quite see how close that was until we came in and had a beer after the game, and we saw it on the TV and it was like, oh my word, that was utterly ridiculous. So thankful for that. But as I say, this Chelsea team are growing. We're not quite, I don't want to say at Arsenal's level, because I think Arsenal were quite boring to watch actually, but I think we've got players in our side that can really hurt teams. And I think once they realise that and we kind of get to that point where we can make our own decisions and not be too bogged down by systems and tactics. I think Maresca's given us a little bit more freedom to say Arteta's version of what he's playing. I feel like we have a certain amount of people that kind of have like Cole Palmer, for example. He's not really playing a definitive role, and you could see that Arsenal were definitely having their players, Saka and Martinelli, they were out wide and they were only staying out wide, and Cole Palmer was roaming in between, and you could see that Jackson was kind of dropping off when he wanted to, and he would go forward when he wanted to, and Neto was drifting in from the right hand side, and that's how he scored his goal. I think if he was playing for Arsenal today, he wouldn't have scored that goal because he'd have been too far on the touchline, whereas Neto was drifting in and cutting like an inside forward, almost an old-fashioned inside forward. And obviously, scoring that goal was absolutely wonderful. And I think as long as we've got a little bit of freedom within the squad and a little bit of kind of swag about us, we'll be completely fine. And the result kind of feels like a point gain today, I'll be honest with you, because City lost at the weekend, and obviously Villa losing is not ideal for them. And, you know, it's given us, obviously, Spurs losing too. Yeah, when you're playing a tough team like Arsenal and you come away with a fairly positive point, particularly having been behind, I think that you can certainly feel proud, and you can feel like, even though we didn't win the game, I don't want to celebrate a draw. I never do, and I wouldn't. But there are times within football that you have to kind of hold your hands up and say, we were losing to a team that finished second in the league last year, who could have won the league, 2 years running potentially up, barring a Man City kind of destruction job like they always seem to do at the moment. And I just feel as though we've gone toe-to-toe there with a team that are proper Premier League ready team who could win the league, and to be above them going into the international break, and obviously being above Spurs and basically everybody else other than Liverpool and Man City feels pretty good. And we've got a nice run of games coming up now. Like you said, Chris, the teams who are playing are more at the bottom end of the table than the top. So we've ridden a bit of a storm, and the fact we've come away with only one defeat from that is pretty good. So feeling pretty chipper tonight. We'll give our reactions and things a little bit more maybe during the week, but I think overall I'm very happy with the team, very happy with the way we're playing, really loving Maresca and what he's about and the way he cares, and obviously he loves his team. His celebration at the end, or his walk around the pitch, was very much aimed at the fans. You could see that he was really pleased with how his team have come back and fought for a point today. So, really pleased with that. And I think when you go 1-0 down at home to anybody with a few minutes to go, it's always nice to kind of pinch back, what you feel is right for yours. So, the bridge remains intact for another year. Didn't beat Arsenal, which is a shame because obviously our record there is not great, but at least we didn't lose. And sometimes there's more to be said to that than I give it credit for sometimes. So, really pleased.
Let's turn over now to friend of the show and fantastic analyst and writer Fahad Ahmed for his reflection on the Arsenal game and on Chelsea's start to the season so far. Over to you, Fahad.
Hey Chris, hope everything is good. Yeah, the Chelsea-Arsenal game, again, one of those games where we've come close. This is, we've faced all three of the top four main contenders, apart from Chelsea, Liverpool, City and Arsenal. All three games where we've played well, could not get a win. Yeah, I thought this was a very close game. Came down to really capitalizing on the moments each team got, and Chelsea and Arsenal only capitalized on one. But I thought both teams were pretty even. Neto has been great over the past few weeks. I think today he showed, and Madueke in suppose a wrong way proved why he doesn't deserve a spot for now. I thought he was poor not only today but for the past few weeks. But I think post international break, I think Neto is definitely going to start at right wing, and I think we'll see more minutes for Modric as well. Yeah, broadly speaking, I think Chelsea are in a good position right now. Third place in the Premier League. As mentioned, having faced the tougher opponents as well is a good spot to be at right now. And we've got an easier run of fixtures, relatively easier run of fixtures in the upcoming weeks after the international break. So It'll be important for us to string a good set of results, a good run of wins. Because I think over the past few weeks we haven't really done that, understandably so. We've played good sides like Arsenal, Liverpool. The United game was a bit chaotic, but with the upcoming fixtures, I think it's a good opportunity for us to string a set of wins and create some separation from the rest of the league. Because although, yes, we are in third place, I'm looking at the Premier League table right now, and third place Chelsea and 13th place Manchester United only have 4 points separating them. It's a very narrow gap with the rest of the league. It's a very competitive league as well. I think this season, especially, many teams are performing really well. We saw that a couple of days ago with Brighton defeating Manchester City as well. And then before that, we've seen Newcastle defeat Arsenal. So yeah, it's a tough league, but I think we've got an opportunity in the coming weeks to create some separation, as I said. It'll be important for us to get that done. But I think the squad is in a good place. The manager's in a good place just to deal with what's coming next. So yeah, I'm still very positive. In terms of play style as well, I think we're competing. We're competing toe-to-toe with the bigger teams and the stronger teams, like Liverpool, like Arsenal. And earlier in the season, first game we played against City, I thought we were still a very competitive side. So many positives to take for sure. Pleased with where we are right now, but of course, long season ahead, so can't really get carried away at all. But yeah, I think Chelsea fans are pleased to be where we are right now as well. So yeah, that's all.
Morning after, the night before, and yeah, feeling actually still pretty upbeat generally about the game yesterday. Watched quite a lot of the post-match stuff last night, and I think the general narrative is that Chelsea played well, kind of showed that we're a team to be taken seriously this year. And one of the things that I mentioned yesterday, but you really look at it, is the fixture list, and we really have played, a lot of tough games actually in the first 11 games as it is. And I looked at the fixture list going into the new year, and you can never take any game for granted in the Premier League anyway, but especially in Chelsea, games like Everton away, as we know, are very tough historically for us. But on paper, there's a lot of points there up for grabs for us, and I think if we can, after the international break, continue the form that we're showing in those games, I think, a lot to be positive about. Again, love the stuff after the game yesterday with the whole squad going and doing a lap of honour, appreciating the fans. We've talked about that so much, but it's a big thing that Maresca's brought into the club that not a lot of people are talking about really. And you see, I think you just see the reaction to the goal actually. It's one of those when Neto scores, the way he celebrated was obviously absolutely brilliant in front of Matthew Harding. The fact that all the players were there with him, there's a connection there that we've not seen for quite some time, and that's been, it's a joy, isn't it? Really, really good to see. I wanted to pick out a little negative. I nearly mentioned it after the game yesterday. I was thinking about during the game, and then it's funny that I didn't put it in the note, but a lot has come out overnight on it, and it is Nkunku. And if there was one blot that I could put on Maresca, it would probably be the way that he's used Nkunku at Chelsea. And in the Premier League, it feels like in these sort of games he's getting, nominal minutes. I think he came on, it was after the 85th minute, wasn't it? So he got a little bit of the injury time. He basically got 10 minutes, hardly any time to get in the game. And I felt like yesterday, with the way that Palmer, number one, didn't necessarily look 100%, did he? And secondly, the fact that Arsenal were kicking him off the pitch and staying so tight to him. If there was one game where you thought, okay, let's see what Nkunku could either do in that position or do with Palmer to help him out, it felt like it was a good game for it. But he doesn't seem to either have found a way or come up with an idea of how to get them both on the pitch together. And I think it's a real, real shame because honestly, I think Nkunku's a brilliant player and up there with Palmer as our most talented attacking player. And it's just to me, it's really gutting that we've not seen them together. Like, obviously the way I was thinking of this, the way it worked out with Neto going on the right, a couple of minutes later he scored a great goal. So it turned out to be exactly the right call. I'm not questioning it. But we have seen Palmer on the right. He spent most of last season playing off the right. Now, I wouldn't want to see him there all the time, but I think in a game like yesterday, we could have moved him onto the wing. He's played on the left as well for Man City. So, we brought on Mudryk. We could easily have moved Palmer over to the left and put Nkunku down the middle, and suddenly Palmer's getting a bit more space and can find different ways to hurt Arsenal, or put him on the right. And as we've seen, he's so effective there. So, I don't know. I'd just like to see Maresca think about that and try and find a different way to get Nkunku on the pitch at times in those games where we need to break teams down, because I think, and this is the point I was going to make, I think we are in a real risk of losing him. And sure enough, after the game last night, L'Équipe came out with a story that he's not happy, and then linking him with Man United, Liverpool and Bayern Munich, which, to be fair, all three of them you could see as good candidates of teams who would want him. And I don't know. I think with this, in the modern day, I don't think you can fall in love with players at your club, because everyone is available for sale effectively if the price is right. And I think it's really, really difficult to. We've seen, heartbreaking years gone by, whether you're a Mason Mount fan or not, or Conor Gallagher more recently. Players are going to leave your club. And Nkunku was just one that was just so excited when we signed him. And we've just not really seen much of him, have we, apart from him smashing in goals every week against Conference League teams. So let's see. I think hopefully Chelsea don't do anything crazy in January with him, which means there's still a long, long season ahead for him to get game time, for us to find solutions to get him on the pitch a bit more. And over Christmas, the games come thick and fast as well, don't they? So he should get some more Premier League minutes. But yeah, I just wanted to make that point, because again, he's a brilliant player and I'd love to see him, get more game time in games like that. Outside of that, watched it back again. Sanchez, that near post, I think it came up a little bit. I think Paul Merson actually said a really good thing on Sky Sports, just saying, you've just made it a bit easier for him. If Martinelli, finishes with a beautiful clip into the far corner, curls it in off the post, you kind of put your hands up and go, yeah, great goal. But when you get beaten at post, you're always going to get questioned. And I think we'll end up saying this probably all season long. And it's just, Chelsea, are they going to get to the next level without a top keeper? And I'm just not sure. And I think actually you saw the opposite actually with Arsenal, with Raya, who I thought was excellent yesterday, particularly off his line, which is a thing I've not seen from him that much. I haven't seen a huge amount of him play, but there's a couple of really good through balls that Chelsea played, and Raya was so far off his line, so quick to kind of cut those out that it just stopped the chance before it even became one. And obviously he's very good with his feet as well. He's really taken Arsenal up to the next level, I think, in the same way that we saw Alisson and Ederson do at City and Liverpool. So it just looks like an area for me that Chelsea are going to have to address in the summer, I would have thought, because we're just going to, unfortunately, probably be talking about this all year long, and we'll try not to bore people too much on the podcast doing so. But overall, let's finish with a positive. I think going into international break, feeling very, very happy. Hopefully, no one gets hurt on the break, and we're sensible in terms of people like Palmer. Hopefully, maybe not going with England and just protecting those people with a knock. But yeah, up the Chelsea, and feeling good.
I guess the bigger picture for Chelsea this season was always going to be the task of managing this squad. I'll be honest, it was always in the back of my mind that players such as Felix and Nkunku and one or two others as well were always going to be frustrated and annoyed they weren't going to play. And I think that's sort of playing out now. Now, on the face of it, I think if the European competition was a bit more serious, it might not be quite as bad. But as you can tell from the results that we've had and the results we can get going forward, that even as a striker scoring lots of goals in these competitions, they look deflated. It's puffing their goals up, isn't it? It's not really a game. And when you play in these matches as a footballer, you know what perception of you is, and he will certainly know Nkunku that he's a second stringer at the moment, which is really disappointing for him. I'll be honest, just very briefly, I've not seen enough of Nkunku. I know he's a good player. I know he's very silky. I haven't seen enough in the Premier League to warrant what he is. He's had start against Man City. I think, to my knowledge, that's the only start he's had. And he's had odd minutes off the bench, and they really have been small. 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 8 minutes, and no more than that. He's had a match-winning goal against Bournemouth. But again, really, it's been small snippets. So I don't want to come on here and say he's so wonderful, and if he went to somebody else, we would miss him. I think Chelsea, if they were to sell him, it would be a lot more than the £52 million that we paid for him, even though he's not played many Premier League minutes. He has scored a bundle of goals in Europe, and this is kind of why it will inflate his profit if we were to sell him. And I'm not going to come on here now and start talking about transfers, but it's something we have to monitor. And I think Maresca, even as a rookie manager, we might like him and we might think he's good at this or good at that. Managing a squad of this side is going to be difficult. Even the players like Dewsbury Hall that were bought in for 30 million, he's not even getting on the bench for a lot of these games. Obviously, he's got Chuck there sitting, twiddling his thumbs, £21 million player, not doing a lot because can't get him in the side, and he looks to be on his way out. And I think he's a really good player. So, yeah, it's a huge ask for the manager to try and just put players in for the sake of it. If he doesn't feel as though Nkunku and Felix and Chuck and Dewsbury Hall and anybody else who's playing can add something to the team, then he's not stubborn by any means, but he's sticking to his principles, and he's saying, do you know what, I feel as though this is the best side that's going to get us 3 points today, and that's what I'm going to go with. And he sees them in training, like we say. He picks his team off of training, and I think that basically says to the players, if you're not putting the effort in, and I don't know because I'm not there, but if Nkunku is looking like a player that can't be asked, then yeah, he's going to find himself on the bench more often than not. I think I loved yesterday his attitude, particularly to the goal going in, how he celebrated that, the way he came round the pitch at the end to the supporters. He meant those claps. He meant those, points for the crowd. And I want to see my manager have that passion. It sparked the emotion in me that was like, I haven't been feeling this now for a long, long time. And when you're at the ground and you can sense, and you don't often get this on the TV, but when you sense that he's doing everything for you and you and your fellow supporters, it's a really big thing to me. And if you're lucky enough to get to a game this season, if you haven't been yet, or maybe you're abroad and you haven't been to one, if you get the chance to come to a Chelsea game at the moment, I would certainly do that because it is fun to watch. It was a good game yesterday. But Maresca is that type of guy that he wants to be successful with Chelsea. And Chris mentioned it. Chris was on a show called Welcome to the Weekend last week, before the Arsenal game, previewing that. And with Leonie Carpenter, who's also on Instagram. Really good show. It's on YouTube, Sky Sports production. If you get the chance to watch that, it's called Welcome to the Weekend. Really good. And Chris mentioned about Chelsea needing a manager that has some swagger, and Maresca has that in spades. And long may it continue. He's a guy that's tactically sound. He's got the wherewithal to be happy to stand up to the media in press conferences before and after games. He has a humour about him, even though he's Italian and he doesn't have English isn't perfect for him. He has the ability to stand up to the media and has some humour and actually come back at the journalists when they ask stupid questions. He was asked a really stupid question last week, which was, do you think Pep Guardiola likes you more than Arteta? And he just looked at the guy and said, is this a question? Like, he's not stupid. And I think for me, going into this international break, this is something now that I've got a good amount of games to go on, and I can see him growing into the role, a bit like Jose did in some ways. Jose was kind of maybe slightly finished article, but he's certainly grown into this now. And Maresca's really someone that I'm fully backing. I'm getting behind him. He's got a tough ask to manage his squad, and if players do decide to leave or we do decide to get rid of them, I don't blame him, because it's an almost impossible task to keep 35 first-team players happy. And until the squad, I think, needs trimming, I still think it needs trimming now. It's great having two sides, but I do think it's maybe a little bit excessive. But the guy's doing fantastic. He's a fantastic manager. He's a nice guy, and he's doing his best for all of us.
Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be alright.